Hello friends, I welcome you to the next module of IFRS. Today we will cover International Accounting Standard 37, which is on provisions, contingent liabilities and contingent assets. The aim of International Accounting Standard 37 is to ensure that the provisions are made only where there are valid grounds for them. Because before International Accounting Standard 37, there was no accounting standard on the provisions, and companies used to make the provisions only when they feel like, or they were using it for the profit smoothing, which was misleading. Considering this fact, International Accounting Standard 37 comes into the picture. As per agenda, this is part B, element of financial statement, wherein we have topic of provisions, contingent liability and contingent asset, and we will cover the objective, scope, definition, recognition, measurement and disclosure requirements under IAS 37. As per the objective of this standard, it is to ensure that appropriate recognition criteria and the measurement basis are applied to the provisions, contingent liability and contingent asset, and that sufficient information is disclosed in the notes to enable user to understand their nature, timing and amount. So if you closely observe the objective of IAS 37, it is recognition, measurement and disclosure which need to be applied to the provisions, contingent liability and contingent assets. If you come up to the scope of IAS 37, the standard shall be applied by all the entities in accounting for the provisions, contingent liability and contingent assets. However, it excludes those which is resulting from executory contracts. By executory contract, it means the normal business contracts, normal sale purchase contract, normal contracts which happens in any business transaction. No doubt, we will also cover the technical definition of executory contract, but in general, executory contract are normal business contracts. And in a normal business contract, that leads to a liability or a real real liability in your books rather than thinking about a provision. However, as soon as these executory contracts fall into the nature of a provision, or we can say onerous contract, that leads to creation of provision. But we will cover this aspect because this is one of the technical aspects of IAS 37 which we need to understand as a professional or as a accountant. Coming to the exception, that another exception is it also excludes those which is covered by another standard. So by another standard, what is covered under another standard? Let's see the examples. The examples of those which is covered in another standard are financial instrument, IAS 39 and IFRS 9, income taxes. As we know, while creating DTA, DTL is also as good as your provision. So that is not covered under IAS 37, that is covered under IAS 12. For leases, in case of lease also, we create provision for the lease term payments or lease payments over the lease term. And so that is covered under IAS 17. Employee benefit. In case of employee benefit, we create liability and provisions in our books for the payment which we need to make to employees against the benefits which we are getting from the employees, and that is when they fulfill the vesting conditions or other requirements. So that provision is not deal here in IAS 37, but that is under IAS 19. For insurance contract, we have IFRS 4, contingent consideration in a business combination. So by business combination, we mean when there is a merger, there is an acquisition, there is a consolidation, or all these aspects, that is a business combination. In case of a business combination, it may be the case that the acquirer will receive the contingent consideration from the acquiree, and that contingent consideration leads to creation of a provision in the books of the equity, and that is covered under IFRS 3. For revenue from contract with customers, so all these revenues wherein even for the revenue sometime for the we need to create the provisions for the the payment to be received, and even just think about an example of warranties. If we are providing the warranties to the customers under the contract, so that impact and that leads to the provision which an entity needs to create. Though we will try to touch base on that warranty aspect, because but in detail these are all related to executory contract, so that is covered under IFRS 15. Now, after knowing and understanding the objective and scope of IAS 37, let's move to the definition. The definition of provision. So provision is a liability of uncertain timing or amount. For that, it's important that one should understand what is a liability. A liability is a present obligation of the entity which is arising from the past event, the settlement of which is expected to result in an outflow from the entity of the resources embodying economic benefit. So in general, we know the liability is an obligation, which is a present obligation. You have a liability in your books right now, and that arises because of some past event. Some transaction happened, you buy something, and that leads to a creation of, for example, a creditor in your books, and thereby it is saying that the settlement is expected to result in an outflow. So it will be an outflow for the entity, and that is a liability. So how a provision is different from a liability? A provision is a liability. However, if in that liability the payment or the amount which need to be paid is uncertain and the timing of payment is uncertain, then that's called provision. Moving to the next definition of executory contract. I told you that we surely cover the technical definition. The definition given under IAS 37 of executory contract is the contracts under which neither party has performed any of its obligation or both parties has partially performed their obligation to an equal extent. So it means when there are normal contracts in which the parties, the contractual parties have entered into the contract, but they have not either fulfilled any condition, or they have fulfilled partially but only to the equal extent. So what would be the examples of these executory contract? Routine purchase contract, sales contract, construction contract, any professional contract, lease contract. So these are the examples of executory contract, and the standard says that this does not apply to executory contract unless they are onerous. And now it's become important to know what we understand by onerous contract, because executory contract are the normal contract even wherein this standard need not to be applied. Onerous contract are those contracts which can be understood as good as a loss contract, and we will see the definition of onerous contract also. Onerous contract is a contract in which the unavoidable cost of meeting the obligation under the contract exceed the economic benefit expected to be received under it. So, in general, try to understand that onerous contract should be what type of contract? It is as good as an executory contract. However, due to a loss generate out of that contract, that convert from an executory contract to an onerous contract. And that's why onerous contract is a loss contract in which it leads to unavoidable cost, wherein the cost is more than the economic benefit which an entity could expect from that contract. For example, a vacant leasehold property. So if you have a vacant leasehold property, you have to make the lease payment, but it is vacant, Neither you are using it for your own purpose, neither you are letting it out, so still you need to make the payment. So that leads to an onerous contract, and maybe you need to require to create the provision in case of onerous contract. So standard says that if you have an onerous contract, you need to create the provision. Coming to the definition of obligating event. So an event that creates a legal or constructive obligation that result in an entity having no realistic alternative to settle that obligation. So then that obligation leads to generation and creation of provisions. So obligating event is an event which cannot be settled in any other way. There is no alternative. You have to settle it by making some payment, or it may be a legal, obligation, or it's a constructive obligation. So what do we understand by legal and constructive obligation? A legal obligation is derived from a contract through its explicit or implicit term. So it may be the detailed, explained terms of and the conditions where in the contract, which may be a legal obligations, and it may be implied conditions, implied on the basis of like a generally an entity practice, and it derived from the legislation, a law or an operation of law which is legal, and that's why this is called as legal obligation. On the other hand, the constructive obligation is an obligation which derives from an entity action where by an established pattern of past practice, published policies, or a significant or sufficient specific current statement, the entity has indicated to other parties that it will accept certain responsibilities. And as a result, the entity has created a valid expectation on the part of those other parties that it will discharge those responsibilities. So over here, even if something is not in writing, it is a constructive obligation of the entity that they abide themselves by fulfilling those obligations. So why we are understanding the obligating event and legal obligation, constructive obligation, because if an entity have an obligating event arising from the past event, wherein that leads to some obligation, for those obligations the entity needs to create provisions. And for creation of provision, we fall under IAS 37. Now moving to the definition of contingent liability. Contingent liability is a possible obligation that arises from the past event and whose existence will be confirmed only by the occurrence and non-occurrence of one or more uncertain future events not wholly within the control of the entity. So the important in contingent liability is it is a possible obligation. The obligation is possible because it's not probable right now. It's possible because if it is probable, then it will be fall under provision. Because it is possible, and this possibility is depend upon the future, uncertainty regarding future of whether the occurrence or non-occurrence of the event, and either it is not wholly within the control of the entity, or it may be a present obligation that arise from a past event but not recognized because it is not probable that the outflow of the resources embodying economic benefit will require to settle the obligation, or the amount of the obligation cannot be measured with sufficient reliability. So I want to highlight, and if you see it, this technical definition, in general, it is saying that if something cannot be a liability, if something cannot be a provision, that fall under a contingent liability. And this contingency is with respect to either uncertain future event, or there may be the case that it's not possible and it's not probable that the company need to make an outflow of the resources, and the amount is not measurable. All these three factors leads to the definition of contingent liability. So a liability become contingent if the there is uncertainty with respect to the occurrence of non-occurrence of that event. If though it is present obligation, but it is not probable that the entity need to make an outflow of resources. On the other hand, even if it is probable that the entity need to make the profit, but the amount is not measured reliably. You don't know what is the amount would be with respect to that liability. And this all leads to a situation where you cannot measure something. And if you cannot measure it, how you will disclose it? So basically, how will you take it in your financial statement? So IAS 37 says for a contingent liability, we disclose it rather than measure it. Moving to the definition of contingent asset. So a contingent asset is a possible asset. A possible asset that arise from the past event and whose existence will confirm only by the occurrence and non-occurrence of one or more uncertain future event not wholly within the control of the entity. So herein, the entity has a possibility of having economic benefit which could be considered as an asset. However, since it depends upon the occurrence and non-occurrence of one or more uncertain future events, so we cannot account for it. And since we cannot account for it, it will say that contingent assets will be disclosed in the notes to financial statement. Now let's move further to the standard and see the recognition, how we recognize and understand the liabilities, provisions and contingent liability. So this is a very important slide right now. This is the concise and the crisp form of looking at the liability, provision and contingent liability, because generally as an accountant we get confused and it's difficult to make a judgment whether something is as a liability, something as a provision or something as a contingent liability. So before moving to the recognition criteria, let's understand this. Liabilities are those which is virtually certain and very less uncertainty. You know that is your liability. If you have taken a bank loan, so you have to make a payment. This is a liability to you. Trade payables. Your trade payables, your creditors are your liability. When you create accruals, part of other payables, so that is also your liability. Whenever you accrue something, you know that you are making accrual because the payment is due. You just need to make the payment. So these are all liability. However, if you come to the provisions, provisions are also recognized as liability. They are not real liability. They are recognized as liability because there is uncertainty with respect to the timing and amount. For example, you need to make the reliable estimate for the bad debts. You need to create provisions for the bad debt. You need to create provisions for the certain items which is you're not very sure of making the payment, but the reliable estimate can be made. It should be a present obligation and due to the past event, and the outflow should be probable. So then it is called as provision and you need to account for it. Coming to the contingent liability, when you need not to recognize it as a liability, you need to make a disclosure of the same, because contingent liability is uncertainty about the timing and the amount, but also does not meet recognition criteria. Since it is not meeting the recognition criteria, that's why instead of falling under the criteria of provision, it is falling under contingent liability. For example, possible obligation, not probable outflow of economic benefit, and reliable estimate cannot be made. In all these three conditions, that leads to contingent liability. Now let's move to the recognition. Now we recognize the provision. How we recognize the provision? Please ensure that we need to meet all the criteria, all the requirements over here in the slide, all the three criteria, in case we want to provide for and recognize the provision in our financial statement. So provision shall be recognized when an entity has a present obligation. And this obligation can be a legal or the constructive obligation. We know what is obligating event, we know what is legal obligation, we know already what is constructive obligation, and that as a result of past event. So there must be a present obligation arising from a past event. It is probable that the outflow of the resources embodying economic benefit will be required. You need to be very sure that there will be outflow, because that leads to a liability on you, and that's why you need to account for it. And a reliable estimate can be made of the amount of the obligation. You can estimate how much is that the obligation you have and the probable outflow will be there, because if you cannot estimate, you will not able to measure it, and if you cannot measure something, how will you show that amount in your financial statement? So please ensure that for creating a provision in your books to account for any provision, all these recognition criteria need to be met. Present obligation because of the past event, probable outflow, and reliable estimate can be made of the amount. Moving to the recognition of contingent liability, IAS 37 says an entity shall not recognize a contingent liability, because contingent liability here, the amount, you cannot estimate the amount. Either you're not probable whether there is a future economic future outflow of the resources. And just refer the definition of contingent liability. This help you to know that why we are saying that it is not recognized in the books of accounts. Coming to the keynotes, it says that do not disclose if possibility is remote. It says that in journal, for a contingent liability, IAS 37 required that you need to disclose the contingent liability you have. But if it is remote, very remote likelihood that maybe the case coming up to you, or anything which you feel like may be a liability, but it is very remote, then you need not to even disclose it, and it is not initially expected. If you are not expecting anything, you cannot account for anything. You cannot even disclose of. Contingent assets is an entity. It shall not recognize the contingent asset again. The keynote says usually contingent asset arise from an unplanned or unexpected event which leads to possibility only. So if something which is only possible and usually arise from unexpected events, so it's a very though the concept of prudence also comes into the picture, and not let us as an accountant to account for any contingent assets in our books. And if realization of the income is virtually certain, then only recognize it as an income. Otherwise, disclose if the inflow of the economic benefit is probable. So these are the requirement of recognition of contingent assets. Now move to the measurement. While measurement of the provision is important, I told you that for the provision we need to do the measurement, because we account for the provision in our books. It says for the measurement of provision, the amount which recognizes a provision should be the best estimate of the expenditure required to settle the present obligation at the end of the reporting period. So it is based on the best estimate. It involves the risk and uncertainty. So whenever we create some allowances or the provisions, it is made of uncertainty. Where the provision is being measured involves a large population of items, the obligation is estimated by weight to all possible outcomes by the associate probability, that is expected value. So the measurement is based on the uncertainty. The measurement of provision also involves that if there is a payment which needs to be made at a future date, and where the effect of time value of money is material, then the amount of provision should take into account the present value of the expenditure which is required to settle the obligation. And here we know that we need to use a discount rate, and that discount rate should be an appropriate rate. The discount rate should be a pre-tax rate that reflects current market assessment of the time value of money, and it should not reflect risk of which future cash flow estimate have been adjusted. In general, in the examination situation, this discount rate will be given to you, but we as a professional accountant should know that what the discount rate is. Future events